And we're ready whenever you are, Mayor.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for attending tonight's city council meeting. For those who are attending remotely, the camera in council chambers is set up to show those attending in person tonight. The platform we are using has a raise hand feature. You will notice a picture of a hand in the upper right-hand corner. When we reach the point in the meeting where the public has the opportunity to address council, you can click that button to be given your opportunity to address council. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Tulley,
Here.
Counselor Silly,
Here.
Counselor Powers,
Here.
Counselor Scamperly,
Here.
Counselor Stevenson. Here. Counselor Tebow.
Here.
Counselor Trim. Quorum present.
I just want to note, we are expecting Councilor Trim to join us remotely this evening. However, since notice was not provided at the time the meeting agenda was published, Councilor Trim may not vote on any action item at this meeting, but she may participate in the discussion. I just want to make the public aware of that. We do not have any presentations tonight. We do have one proclamation for Founder's Day, and I will make that proclamation now. Whereas the people of St. Lawrence County, and especially the people of the city of Ogdensburg, owe a debt of gratitude to Abby Francois Piquet, accompanied by 4 indigenous people, 25 Frenchmen, including a stonemason, carpenter, laborers, and soldiers, who arrived on the west shore of the Oswegatchie River on May 30, 1749, to found Fort de la Presentación. And whereas on June 1st, Abby Francois Piquet celebrated Mass on the future site of Notre Dame Church, officially establishing the French mission. And whereas this small band firmly established a small French community that embraced indigenous people from modern-day central New York, Ontario, and Quebec, Canada, as members of the Catholic faith and allies of the French monarchy in the St. Lawrence Valley. And whereas the community persevered and prospered on the frontier under the banners of France, Great Britain, and the United States through imperial wars, the Revolution, and the United States' Second War for Independence in 1812. And whereas the first Euro-American mission and fortification evolved as a center for shipbuilding, a commercial port serving the mighty St. Lawrence River and Great Lakes, a railroad transportation hub, and industry. And whereas the city of Ogdensburg's development as a vital and vibrant river community is a testament to the bravery, vision, faith, resilience, and persistence of all those people from across the old and new worlds who planted the flag here and founded our community. And whereas on May 28, 2024, the mayor of Ogdensburg issued a proclamation proclaiming each May 30th as Founders Day in the city of Ogdensburg in recognition of Abby Piquet's significant contribution to the establishment of our beloved city in St. Lawrence County. Now, therefore, as mayor of Ogdensburg, I am Michael Tooley, here proclaiming that May 30th, 2025 is Founders Day in the city of Ogdensburg in recognition of the 276th anniversary of the establishment of our beloved city. I am witness whereof I have here to set my hand and cause the seal to be affixed.
Mayor, excuse me. I just wanted to let you know I did just receive a message from Counselor Trim, and she is unable to attend remotely.
Okay, thank you, Shannon.
Sure.
We do not have any public hearings tonight, so that brings us to personal appearance. At this time, if anyone attending in person would like to address council, please come down to the podium. You will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is John Demers. I'm here to address the War on Global Terror Monument in Grove Park. There's 22 names that deserve to be on there. We've been battling this for 3 years or more, and I'm just trying to find out how to get the ball started. They're saying the city council has to approve it. There's going to be no money from the city of Ogdensburg. This is all going to be, we have a benefactor that's going to donate the money. There's no cost to the city. We're looking for a yes or no, and we'll take the ball and go from there. We have to line up who's ever going to do the edging, whether it's Frarys or whoever, but pretty much the cost is covered. So we've been battling this for three years. I don't know. We'll see. It's a couple of years around the council at one time.
Well, again, we'll ask you to turn this over and have discussion with the city manager about this to move this forward.
Yeah, like quick. I mean, couldn't take. I mean, what is there? What is there to decide? You got 22 veterans, war veterans that want their name on, that deserve to get their name on there. There should be no notes. There shouldn't be any question about it.
I don't know if there's any question about it, but again, we need to turn it over to the city manager first to work out the plan of how that could be accomplished. And if council action is needed, then we can prepare the
How did it work
resolution.
last time?
Then we can prepare the resolution for council to act if necessary. I'm not going to discourage you from proceeding. That's the process we need to follow, as we discussed this morning. Anyone else?
My name's Arlene Ty, a daycare provider. I have 5 questions for the council members tonight. Has the council requested to review any of the home business affidavits that were filled out to see how they were signed and who is paying and who isn't? Does anyone with council feel this is discrimination? Has there been any discussion among the council about the permit idea? Why is this being billed under water and sewer? Because it's not water use. It's about having home-based business. I have been to all meetings in May, and I didn't hear any proclamation for Mow in May in the city of Ogdensburg. We have a lot of big box businesses and homes with overgrown grass. Doesn't look good for the city. Thank God June is coming, so the business and homes will be held accountable for overgrown grass. We hope it isn't too much for folks to take care of. Maybe the question should be answered under old business tonight. Thank you. I'll be giving this to Kathy for the minutes.
Thank you. Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize and unmute one person at a time. You will have 5 minutes.
The first individual is registered as Greg McNamara, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. It appears your line is open, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to call in tonight and address a few things. First of all, the fact that last meeting, the city manager stated he hadn't contacted the hopeful developer for the Diamond property yet, he should have been all over that. Like, that should have been his #1 priority. Someone wants to bring millions of dollars to the city of Ogdensburg and develop this area down here that multiple different groups of councilors and past mayors haven't been able to do. Andrea's last meeting here, you guys all grandstanded for her and put her up on this huge pedestal that she had this property ready to rock and roll. And then all of a sudden, it's not. I think it is. I believe the last administration made it more than clear. They even used the term DEC, that this property is good for on-slab, construction, which would mean they could pour concrete pads and build stuff on it. I can't wrap my head around why it's been decades they haven't been able to develop this property. But when you have somebody willing to come to Ogdensburg and spend millions of dollars and invest it in this community, to not instantly hop on that is insanity. No offense, but I would imagine this group of people have attorneys that make our city attorney look like a pipsqueak and have done tons of these huge projects, stuff he's never even imagined. You just need to get in contact with them people, and he needs to make this happen. Anything else other than that is just pure negligence, in my opinion. And I would also like to see the DPW maintaining the end of Madison Avenue better. It's the entrance to the Diamond property. And I've been living there for 8 years and almost 9 years. They treat it like crap. They don't plow it. A private contractor that does work for Hoosier Magnets plows that part of the city street. I don't know why they don't plow my side of it. I had to, get nasty on the phone to get them to come down here and do a street cleanup in the spring. And then, I sent some of his pictures, and Fonda looked at it and agreed with me. They need to come down and do the job right. That was a disgrace what they did. It was nothing but Shane Brown just being spiteful and telling them to come do a half-assed job down here. The field also needs to be cut. It's way too tall right now. The city goes around cutting private property's grass, and we let this diamond property get 2-3 feet tall between cuttings. It needs to be kept nice. It needs to be cut every week. All it does is take longer. It's harder on the mower. It's harder on the tractor, and it takes the employee twice as long to cut the field when it's that tall. So it's going to cost the city the same amount of money if they just keep it nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
The next individual is registered as Wendy Hamilton, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears your line is open.
Good evening. So I want to talk about our administrative code, and I know it needs a good look at, but I guess we're going to do it piecemeal. So tonight, chapter 189, subchapter 1-.1 is about the placement of materials between essentially the sidewalk and the curb in that what is usually a grassy strip. I think it's time to remind the community what can and cannot be placed there, what requires a permit, and what some of the definitions are of structure. So for instance, is a structure a kid's playhouse? Is a structure a basketball hoop situation? And is a barrel, a crate, something that contains flowers, or just, if it's empty, it's debris? What some of these things I think need to be clarified for the community so everyone understands what the rules are and what the purpose of that chapter is. Is the purpose simply, safe passage along the sidewalk? Or is it aesthetics? Or is it to maintain that permeable surface? What is the purpose of that chapter? The other thing that we have no regulation on municipally are e-bikes. And I'm not talking about electric scooters, although they can be thrown in with this as well. In the past few weeks, I've been nearly mowed down by an it was an e-bike on the sidewalk. If they're not on the sidewalk, then they're traveling in the wrong direction on the street. And what people might not realize is that although we have no municipal regulation about this, there are New York State regulations, and maybe people need to be reminded of what those are. Finally, what are the regulations regarding private fireworks? I know what New York State's regulations are, and again, our code is silent. And maybe people look to our code first to see if there's any rule about it. And when they don't see one, they think, oh, okay, I can do this. We're coming into fireworks season, and we know what the regulations are regarding public displays, but there are many private displays that go on that I think should be regulated, or at least the New York State regulation enforced, which is there's some illegal firework displays. That's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Wendy.
I do not see any other hands raised, Mayor.
That brings us to correspondence. Do we have any correspondence this evening?
We do not.
Brings us to our consent agenda. That the claims as enumerated in General Fund Warrant 10-2025 in the amount of $608,039.24, and Library Warrant 10-2025 in the amount of $0, and Capital Fund Warrant 10-2025 in the amount of $0, and Community Development Warrant 10-2025 in the amount of $75.98, And Community Renewal Fund warrant 10-2025, the amount of $0 as audited, being the same hereby are ordered paid. I so move.
Second.
Kathy, please call the roll.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson. Yes. Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
approved.
We do not have any appointments tonight, so that brings us to items for council action. Our first item of business will be read by City Manager Fonda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an access and indemnification agreement with the New York State Office of Mental Health, and this is to be able to retrieve the sandstone.
Someone care to introduce this?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, as Fonda referenced, the debris from the buildings being torn down at the St. Lawrence Psychiatric Center have Potsdam sandstone in the debris. And Village of Potsdam expressed initial interest in retrieving that sandstone if they could for use within their village. And their mayor talked to me about this last summer and indicated that if Ogdensburg had any interest, perhaps we could share what the degree of sandstone that becomes available. Certainly that is of interest to the city. Look at the state armory and the construction of that being consisting in part of Potsdam sandstone. So again, there's certain paperwork items we have to take care of before we can go on the property and retrieve sandstone for the city. That's the purpose of this resolution. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Stevenson. Yes. Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by City Manager Fonda.
A resolution designated the lead agency for the city of Ogdensburg Downtown Mall Green Parking Area Project.
I'll move that.
Second.
Yeah, it just simply designated the city as the lead agency in determining seeker.
Okay, just a reminder, the city received a $2.9 million grant last year for this downtown mall green parking project. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson. Yes. Approved.
And our next item of business will be read by City Manager Fonda Jones.
A resolution to make a determination of environmental significance for the city of Ogdensburg Downtown Mall Green Parking Area Project.
Someone care to introduce this?
Move that. Second.
We have a second discussion.
Sure.
I have a question. So this project, I remember, I think twice now I've asked if we could possibly include begin our storm sewer separation. Are we attacking the sewer system infrastructure at all in this project?
I'm going to ask Shane to double check me on this, but is it not separated in that general area?
Okay, but the south side.
Every project we do, we will be looking at, anytime we disturb dirt, we're going to be looking at potential opportunities to separate.
Good, I think that would be perfect, because we're very close to the river. And, you know, clearly we have the issue right over here in Franklin Street, may or may not be caused by overflowing system or an overtaxed system. But I know when we got our report last year, the engineers, the system was definitely overtaxed in a few areas. I think it'd be a great opportunity to go ahead and, if the south side isn't separated, even if we did that on our own, I don't think it would cost too much money to pull the sewer into the river, so, which may affect the seeker.
Yeah, well, every project where we disturb dirt, we're going to be looking at that, certainly. This is no exception.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Kathy, please call the roll.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson. Yes. Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by Public Works Director Shane Brown.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Clinton Tractor and Implement Corporation for a 2025 Ferris IS 6200Z 72-inch deck suspension seat, 48 horsepower turbocat diesel engine at New York State Contracting First.
Someone care to introduce that?
Second.
Shane, I read through this, and what particularly is this piece of equipment? Is it for
A lawnmower.
lawnmower, or just because it just says Ferris?
Yep.
Okay.
And I know the city manager shared with us that this is being paid for through an increase in CHIPS funding in the recently passed New York State budget. Ogdensburg is receiving an additional $40,000 in this budget year for the state. Then the purchase price is $30,500, and as noted, it's New York State contract pricing, so we do not have to go to bid. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
approved.
Thank you, Shane. Our next item of business will be read by City Manager Fonda Cronus.
A resolution designated lead agency for the city of Ogdensburg East David Street Infrastructure Replacement Project.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by City Manager Fonda Cronus.
A resolution to make a determination of environmental significance for the East David Street Infrastructure Replacement Project.
Second that?
Sure. Seeker had previously been done for East David Street. Unfortunately, there were some problems with that, so we're redoing it. There is no significant adverse environmental impact for doing the project, and we're just kind of covering our corners and making sure that everything paperwork-wise is done correctly for the funders.
Thank you. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
approved.
And our next item of business will be read by City Manager Fonda Cronus.
A resolution authorizing the issuance of a bond ordinance in the amount of $2,604,000 for the sewer improvements on East David Street.
I'll make that motion.
This is a required document and council action for us to be able to apply for funding. Specifically, that's EFC, Environmental Facilities Corporation for New York State, to be able to apply for hardship loan funding under the SRF program. Doesn't necessarily mean we will or have to borrow the funds, but they want to make sure that there's a commitment on the city side to have the funding, one way or the other, cash or borrow.
Questions or comments?
Are these funds that will eventually be covered by the grant or reimbursed by the grant, or is this our share?
The $2.6 million is the total amount of the project. We've received $1.3 million from EFC, another $651,000. So the actual local share on this program is $651,000, which we are trying to mitigate with additional grant funding. I'm not necessarily confident that we'll get those funds, but we will give it the old college try.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Rough timeline possibly of through seeker. and-
Water this year and sewer next year. If you'll recall, council allowed us to do the water portion of that in-house, saving significant funds, mostly because we didn't get any grant funding for the water portion.
Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by Director of Public Works, Shane Brown.
A resolution to call for a public hearing and public notice on a proposed ordinance amendment to Chapter 209, Section 209-48, Schedule 11, parking prohibited at all times of the Ogdenburg Municipal Code.
I'm here to introduce it.
Second.
And a brief description of the area.
This is an area across from Haas Marina where he has his gazebo. It's going to run from the sidewalk near his bait shop to like a telephone pole just past the gazebo. I think initially Mr. Hosmer put that area in because he didn't have parking. And now that he's established that a large parking lot, he wishes to eliminate it. Plus, it is a safety issue with all the cars there, people running back and forth. So just open the area up and I think it'll help with the flow of traffic and emergency vehicles if they have to get through there.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Shane. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Tebow?
Yes.
Mayor Tulley?
Yes.
Counselor Selly?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson? Yes. Approved.
And our next item of business will be read by City Manager Fonda Cronis.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to sign a grant of easement with National Grid Power Corporation and Verizon New York Incorporated across a portion of city-owned property located at Jackson Street, being known as tax map number 48.078-1-35.
Second.
Second, any questions?
I'm just kind of wondering where it is specifically. It wasn't a map. Well, I see the map, but I don't think it's really where it is. If somebody could describe that. Jackson Street is down by the Ford property, isn't it?
It's the land adjacent. Oh, you got it, Shane?
I looked at additional, you know the telephone poles that are already there to our property? The poles,
By the Ford
where
property?
where our parking lot is, I think they're just redoing the wiring on those poles,
Okay.
fixing those poles that are there, that head out towards Lighthouse Point.
Right.
Is what it looked like to me on the way the easement's drawn up.
They
I think
should,
they already have them there, I think they're just replacing.
they should probably have like a permanent easement, right? Shouldn't they, so they can access the poles? I mean, just sort of let you know they're coming to do something?
I mean, yeah, they'll call us, but I wouldn't want to get permanent easement with it. Someday we sold it, someone decided they wanted to ask them to pay for it, if we put it underground or move it out of there and go a different direction.
Looks
My
to me like,
thoughts.
looks to me like they're just planning to restring wiring.
Wiring, and maybe, I don't know if they're replacing a few poles that are, I mean, those poles have been there for a while.
The map simply shows existing poles with no
Just
plan to
wiring on
put-
top of it.
No plan to put additional ones in.
Any other questions? Thank you, Shane. Kathy, please call the roll.
Mayor Tulley?
Yes.
Counselor Selly?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson? Yes. Counselor Tebow?
Yes.
Approved.
And our next item of business will be read by City Manager Fonda Cronis.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a water service agreement with DPMJ LLC to extend the city's water supply mains beyond the corporate city limits.
Moved and seconded.
Certainly. At the corner of 37 and 68, across from the auto parts store, another business would like to open up there. They've asked the city for city water. I see no reason not to grant that. The sticking point is they don't need a lot of service. So they really only needed a 2-inch line. In talking with the DPW director, we thought putting in an 8-inch line for future development would be a good idea. So we've struck a deal with the developer where they will pay for the 8-inch line. There's a difference in cost. And then we will credit that difference towards their water fees. And we figure probably within 2 years, they'll be made whole. And we'll have an 8-inch line that can potentially spur additional development beyond the city limits.
Good deal.
I think so.
Then the amount that's credited to them is what we have currently in the code for the outside user fee.
That is correct, yes.
Thank you.
And I guess I will point out the fact that this agreement is different than some of the other agreements, where it actually does follow what the city code has, and so their assessments will be equalized.
Thank you.
How far in are they going off on the other side of that?
Do you recall?
Just inside the state right away from that.
Any other questions? Kathy, please call it.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
approved.
That brings us to old business. Does anyone have any old businesses?
I just wanted to reiterate, because I was also contacted over the weekend about the names missing from the Global War on Terrorism monument. And I know that we've got a lot of things on our plate, but we have been dealing with this for a long time. So I'm sure Mr. Demars will get that information to our city manager. And perhaps if there's anything city council needs to act on, we could do that at the next meeting.
I believe that there were some names added to that a few years ago. I think it was Brandon Mitchell that headed up that effort. So there must be a policy or a procedure in place to do that. Should be relatively routine once we have documentation that these guys were actually service members.
I'm not sure if you participate personally. I know it's been 3 years, well, he's had all the names.
So again, we'll have staff follow up with you and Brendan and others as needed.
So he sent me a list of names, but, and I had the list, it was on my agenda tonight for old business as well, but, some of the names, I think we need to clean it up a little bit, like he says Dave Hollis. Is it Dave or is it David and things like that? You know what I mean? For example, I was just looking at the list and I'm like, it just needs to be cleaned up.
Everybody corrected, supposedly everybody corrected the name, but it's him, but he needs to give it.
Good, specific.
If I can get a copy.
Check the names. Do it right. Right?
I'll forward the list to our city manager and we can forward it.
Please do. I'm happy to expedite this. It's first I'm hearing of it, and I've been here now 11 months.
It shouldn't be hard. It's been an issue for a couple of years, but
We got a few of those.
we had an administration a little difficult sometimes.
Thank you. Any other old business?
No, that's all I have this evening.
I've got a few.
Okay.
Arlene asked tonight if anybody read the report and things like that. I did. I was expecting she would be asking for some comments. I did prepare some comments. I'd like to say, I did read the reports and of course we're all privy to the presentation. And it seems like the gist of the report is a timeline of events. The new definition, I think, is indeed an improvement. I like it. Does it have flaws? Sure. I think everybody will agree with that. There's still a little bit of arbitrariness there. I think the determination process has many flaws, as we pointed out in our discussion last week. But so far, the best that administration can come up with, I know they're trying. If you remember, I fought hard to reduce the amount of the extra fee, which was clearly the better of two evils for the fee payer user, getting it down to $165 a year from what could have been, I think, over $1,200, if I'm not mistaken. But I want to reiterate that my thoughts, I still stick to my comments, and my thoughts at the time that we passed it. And really, I don't see a clear justification for the extra charges without having comparative examples, meaning water meters. The city cannot determine if the identified businesses use more water or not than a residence. You know, you can pick any family size. I think at the time I said, what do we go by? A family of 2, family of 10? What about pools? What about watering lawns, gardens, hosing down sidewalks? It's just, I understand the point that if you're a home business, you may or you may not use more water, but without meters, it just doesn't make sense to me. The folks that keep coming to council meeting again tonight, sometimes there's 8 or 10 of these folks here. You know, they're making valid points all about this. And I think the charges are simply arbitrary. And honestly, I think they should be removed or at least put on hold for a while after this year. I know the water bills went out for this year, but and maybe come up with a better system. And I also recognize that there's been a lot of time in on this too. But I just wanted to share those comments that I still stick to my guns when we talked about it originally. So that was one item I had.
Well, before we move on to another, I have prepared comments tonight on to discuss what I think the recent history in talking about the user fees for water and sewer for home occupied businesses. So I appreciate your patience. Soon after taking office in early 2024, at their request, I met with 2 local home business owners to discuss user fees for water and sewer services. In brief, they stated that they did not think the fees were being assessed in an equitable manner, that there may be some home businesses not charged the home business user fee for water and sewer, and asked that either there be a more equitable assessment of the fee or elimination of the fee. Shortly after this meeting, I raised the issue with City Council and management, with City Council asking for a recommendation from management. Management subsequently recommended maintaining the home business user fee for water and sewer services and stated attempts would be made to apply the fees in a more equitable manner. A few months later, citizens inquired as to the status of follow-up on this issue. Management informed City Council that due to limited resources and other priorities, little had been done in follow-up. As a new city manager had been hired by City Council, Council asked management to look at this issue again. After reviewing the issue with department heads, the city manager recommended a change in the definition of what constitutes a home business for application of the home business user fees for water and sewer services. After some discussion, following an opportunity for the public to comment on this proposal, City Council unanimously approved management's recommendation. At the same time, based on input and suggestions from citizens, City Council significantly reduced the user fee for water and sewer services for qualifying home businesses from approximately $1,000 per year to $165 per year. Inquiry was made with the state to determine if regulations governing home daycare services would exempt such providers from the home business user water and sewer rate charged by the city. The response by the state was that nothing in state regulation prohibited the city from assessing the home business user fee for water and sewer services to home daycare providers. As reported by the fire chief at the last city council meeting, city's code enforcement is taking steps to see as best they can that the city can identify home businesses subject to the home business water and sewer fees. 8 home businesses have been had the higher fee assessed. Code enforcement is continuing to monitor available resources and information to try to see that the code is administered consistently and fairly. Suggestion has been made to eliminate the home business water and user fees and replace it with a business permit for home businesses. I think we need to keep focus on the fact that the current fee is specific to water and sewer use. Such a flat fee listed in the city's municipal code since 1975. The city currently does not have a business permit requirement for standalone businesses in the city, so I do not think it's fair to adopt such a requirement for home businesses. In concluding, while some may not agree with me, in my opinion, citizens have been listened to by City Council and by management about this issue. Changes have been made to try to have more equitable assessment of home business user fees for water and sewer. And early on, there have been incremental success. Also, fees were significantly lowered from this flat rate from $19 per week to $3 per week. As has been noted in discussions on this matter, in a flat rate system, there are going to be inequities. A single person in a home is paying the same rate as a multi-person family in their home, even though the single person is likely using less water and generating less sewage. A home business with multiple customers or clients on site on a weekly basis is likely using more water and generating more sewage than if they did not conduct such business at their home. And so assessing the higher user fee for water and sewer is an attempt to reduce the subsidy being provided them by other citizens of the city. That is the fairness to all our citizens, provided by the additional token $3 per week being charged to qualifying home businesses for water and sewer. Looking to the future, when the city plans for the water infrastructure project in the next year or two, I hope serious consideration is given to installation of water meters throughout the city. I know there is a price to pay for such meters, but if we want to move forward with a fairer way to charge residents for water use and sewage generated, then water meters is the way to move forward. City government has given this matter a high degree of priority for over 1 year. If there are to be any more changes to the code currently in place for water and sewer, they should be initiated by city council, not by management. We should continue to ask management to enforce and administer the code to the best of their ability, making use of the resources available. Beyond that, management should be given the time and direction to focus on other issues of higher priority facing the city. Any other questions or comments on that subject?
I think you make some good points, Mayor. And I think when we do move to water meters, it's going to help the city as a whole, probably saving us water. I remember back when Bill Nelson was mayor, we talked about all the leaky faucets, toilets, things, and the landlords that weren't taking care of it. And water meters hopefully will solve the issue, solve the inequities that we're struggling to try and make it fair now. So that's all I got to say.
Anyone else on that subject? All right.
I do. The Diamond property. I know you had a good conversation. Developers told me that. You called them and they had a good conversation. So they told me to take these in.
Well, for the record, I've talked to those developers numerous times. So it's not like that was the first time I ever talked to them. So I think it's important for some of the members of the public to understand that that was one of multiple conversations that's been had.
So my question, I know we're looking at basically a legal opinion from a couple different sources. I know you told us in the update ways we can move forward to work with developers and get the land developed. You got anything yet?
I do not have a legal opinion yet. This is a fairly complicated issue that brings in state law,
right,
amongst other things, plus court cases, past precedent, and all of those things. So what we're trying to do on the management side is take a dual track, right? We're seeking that legal opinion, but at the same time, we're going to take the current RFP from 2021 and get that updated so that that's ready to go. I think I explained that in the update. Hopefully that came through so that if we are able to, and my assumption is we are going to be able to market that property. It's just hard for me as your city manager to guide you in a path that has legal peril. We have enough lawsuits and we have enough past bad policy for me to do that to you one more time. I just want to make sure that all of our ducks are in a row before we go ahead and pull the trigger. And right now, all I have is a legal opinion from the city attorney that says we probably can't do this. And I would be, if you want to talk about negligence, I would be negligent if I brought you on a journey against the city attorney.
Right. I think we're going to find out otherwise. And I'm glad that we're moving on it. It can't happen quick enough, as I sure you suspect with me. So, and so, if we have other developers and things, can you keep us posted a little bit more as to what's going on? I sent out some concept designs from these guys to council today, or at least the link. I think you have to give permission to use it. I sent out a strategy. I've asked these guys over and over again, go through the city manager, and can you relay the information, whatever you have, to us on other developers as well? And things. We appreciate it.
Sure. My comment on that is, I pride myself on being extremely transparent with council. Obviously, almost every week I produce an update. What I would say to that is when there are concepts that are ready for council to consider, then I'm more than happy to share with them. When they are not ready, it doesn't make sense to do that. It does not make sense for me to give you a concept if I don't have any idea how they're going to pay for that thing. It's a waste of everybody's time until we get into the nitty gritty and determine those details. That's why the RFP or the RFQ process is so important, because it not only provides all of that information, but it also does a lot of the vetting ahead of time. Every time a developer comes in, I don't think it's a good use of council's time to say, hey, I've got this developer who has this idea over at this property. That doesn't make any sense. I want you to deal with projects that are serious, and I would encourage any member of council, including yourself, anytime a developer does contact you, encourage them as strongly as you possibly can to talk with my office so that I know exactly what's going on. A central point of contact is critical if the council manager form of government is going to be successful.
Before I move on,
Anybody else want to
Yeah,
comment?
historically, Ogdensburg has a horrible reputation for dealing with developers. Not so much that since Fonda's come, but throughout the past years. In addition to us seeking requests for proposals for city-owned property, I personally believe that we should strongly consider any well-developed and well-worded and well-thought-out proposal that somebody brings to us for any piece of property the city currently owns. I understand the legal ramifications and the attorney's opinions, and I'm not sure, I haven't seen anything in writing that Dan's brought forward, but if somebody has something that's well-developed, it would behoove us to at least consider it. And at least that way, the developers have the idea that we're just not sitting on something. And I can think of, I've lived here since 1981, and I can think of a half a dozen different projects and proposals that the developers have felt that the city's requirements were too stringent or too time consuming or too costly. And that's something we need to think about with every deal or every piece of property that we own, attempting to get back on the tax rolls. I'm not saying we shouldn't, I agree with you, as city managers, our point of contact, and everything should run through him rather than through individual council members, but we should be honestly considering any sincere proposal that gets these properties back on the tax roll.
Right, and I think the last thing we want to see is these guys heading to Clayton or Waddington or taking their money and going, you know what, we're out of here. Because like Storm said, I've been here my whole life. We've seen projects come and go and they go elsewhere. But we have to stick with them.
Right, and I would caution council, just because this project is in front and center in your minds, doesn't mean it's highest best use, doesn't mean there aren't other developers out there. And that's why an RFP or an RFQ process will get that information, and then you can make a balanced decision based on all the available facts. Right now, council only has a limited amount of information, and that's because the other developers, first of all, we haven't put it out. There could be 15 developers out there who have interest. I don't know. And that's the point. We don't know who's out there. You know of one developer who has some interest, and that development is in phases, not 30 million to start. It's small and then might grow if successful. And these are all of the pieces of information that need to be gathered, put together, vetted, and it needs to be in context with other developers who have interest in the property as well. So I think, as I said this before, I'll say it again, as the guy who puts together your budget, I want nothing more than to have every piece of city-owned property that should be developed in private hands and generating property and sales tax. But when it comes to Diamond and Shade, we got one shot at doing the best decision, and that decision is a 50 to 75 year, either a hangover if it's not a right decision, or a boon to the budgets and to the city. So I just think we should be careful and make the right decisions, because you only get one shot at it.
I agree, Fonda, but the thing that I've been watching over the last several years is I'm not sure the city has any idea what the highest and best use of any of these properties is that we're looking for. You know, somebody comes in with a proposal, we know that's not what we're looking for, but we're not spelling out exactly what we are looking for. Do we want condos down there? Do we want hotel? Do we want recreation? Do we want waterfront access? What are our goals? And I know we've had several citizens committees and things that have looked into that, but I don't think anything's ever been solidified as to what direction we really want to see it go. What direction we want the city to go in, actually, to fill out of it.
I think that's a good point, and we'll be seeking LWRP funding to update our local waterfront revitalization plan, and I think that will help quite a bit. So again, all of this kind of simultaneously happening.
If I can, real quick. Yes, here. You know, with the Diamond property, each and every aspect, and we've had, Dan and I have been here, Jen, Storm, we've seen plenty of people come and go. We've had developers come in with these grandiose ideas with these properties, and you know, we don't have the funding to be able to develop it with them. We can surely work with them to get grants and foundational money of some sorts. But ultimately, we've got infrastructure issues down there, which we have none going to it for city-wise. And as far as legalities, I want to get back to the legalities. We've got an opinion from our city attorney. We're farming out a second opinion to our other attorneys on retainer, correct?
That is correct.
We haven't heard back from them at all?
No, not yet.
They've got to have, I mean, so we've got one legal opinion from Mr. Goldie already. In my years dealing with legal teams, there's a pretty good chance we can get something back to give us an idea as to what is the possible hangups. I think I already know. I tried digging back through, back when I was on council before, I didn't have a tablet. Quite frankly, I don't know how to use one all that well anyway, but all that aside, I started digging up a lot of the old information, and there are state hiccups with this property. I knew it from the beginning, and we're going to have to deal with those. And, we can't just throw out RFQs and RFPs. Now I am entertaining, because I've been able to pull up this site plan. I like the concept. I like everything with it, but I want all our I's dotted and our T's crossed before we go forward with anything. And I get a lot of feedback from the community. Why aren't you moving on this? Why aren't you moving on this? And you try and explain it to them, and you run into roadblocks, or you run into, well, you're just pandering it down the road. You're no different than anybody else. Well, that's not the reality of it. The reality of it is there's infrastructure issues there. There's legalities. We've got, and if we do get the legalities all squared away, there's a good opportunity that we may get considerable developers coming forward. If the timing's right, with Standard Shade Roller coming online shortly thereafter, we could be looking at something bigger and better. Or they could even be coming out, the same developers could be coming forward with something bigger and better. But I can't imagine that we can't get something, at least a ballpark opinion from our other attorneys. And I guess what I'm asking, Fonda, is if you could maybe put a little pressure on it, see if we can't get something back. And I know they're doing a lot for us already. So with that being said, just to try and this is for timeliness as well. I mean, we've got a lot on our plate. We've we've got a lot of things going on. This is consuming a lot of time. And, you know, the quicker we get a legal issue or a legal opinion or a ballpark legal opinion, then we can maybe start moving on to other things, or maybe even moving on to the RFQ or RFPs. You know, I think if we can just maybe put a little pressure on this legal team and maybe have them put together a couple of attorneys in the office to get moving on this might resolve.
Understood.
So I agree that our city manager should be the point of contact for anything that deals with any development within the city, with any city properties. But I also think that it would be beneficial to us all if we at least as city council had a heads up. You know, there's been a serious inquiry on this property or serious inquiry on that property. Because many times when people are looking at coming to the city or any municipality, they don't just reach out to the city manager. They're excited, they want to get movement, so they start reaching out to individual elected officials. And not that we should, as city council, start negotiating with them or making decisions with them. We should still point them back to the city manager. But I think it behooves us to at least say, oh, we knew that there were some serious contacts about this or about that property. It helps us just keep in that contact so that the developer, if they do contact us, they at least have an idea that their idea has been made aware to the council. And not in detail, we don't need to know details, as you say, till it's fleshed out, it's a serious one. But I think that we should at least be aware that there have been serious discussions about something like that.
Understood.
Anyone else?
Next, yes, the wastewater treatment facility. Obviously, we're getting complaints still in the area. I've visited the area often, trying to just, in my travels, I said, well, I'll swing down there and see what's going on. And I think the smell is definitely better. I've talked to other neighbors beyond one that we keep getting an email from. They're happier, much happier than they were. But then again, it still comes and goes and things like that. I know that one of the things we've targeted is the cheese plant in Hamilton as one of the causes, as the waste from the plant, if it travels a long distance, it changes and it creates that sort of smell. And it seems like Dank has a pretty good hold on it for our people. Would you say?
Yeah, we've significantly curbed the amount of effluent that they are producing and sending to our plant. And at considerable expense to them, they are actually trucking that to different haul of it. I guess different end users is what we'll probably say there. As I reported a number of times to council, the plant is in significantly better shape. It's healthy. It's working well right now. One of the challenges might be that with the upgrade to the plant operates a little bit differently than it's operated in the past. And it might behoove members of the council and potentially even members of the public to go through the plant and understand, you know, where the differences are and what that may be. We have had multiple meetings and conversations with DEC. To my knowledge, they are pleased with the progress that's been made. It is a wastewater treatment plant, and as much as it pains me to say, there are going to be odors. There are things that we can't control. We can't control the direction of the wind, the force of the wind, and that all has effects that we have no control over on which way to go. I know it's not much consolation to those who, I've only heard of one complaint, quite frankly, since we've gotten a handle on this, or one person complaining multiple times. If there are others, we'd love to know it because it helps us problem solve. The plant is operating as good as it's probably ever operated, certainly since the upgrade, but we do continue to try and find or fine tune different operational things to make it a little bit better. You know, and painstakingly, we talk about this all the time because we do want to be better.
Have we thought about maybe trying for a number of days, maybe 30 days or so, eliminating any sort of effluence from the cheese plant, period?
We've done that already. That's what identified the issue, and that's why you know, we issued the user permit that significantly reduced their way. So that has already been done.
So it's still a work in progress. In terms of their permit.
It will always be a work in progress because it's a wastewater treatment plant that does produce some odors, and we want to mitigate that as much as possible.
I also went down and spoke with Ms. McGaw. My mother lived on that corner for 75 years, and there are days when it is offensive. I don't know if it's any better now or worse, but you know, I feel bad for Ms. McGaw. She can't use her backyard, she can't use her front yard, she can't they were storing the truck, she said, that had the dried sludge in the garage, and all these other stories she was telling me, but I feel bad for them. Again, my mother lived there for 75 years. It's always been an issue. Again, it depended on the time of year, the wind direction, all these other things, but again, I think it's, and when our cheese factory was running, there were days when the way output, and it would be worse than other days. And you know, I just hope we can get it. It seems to be better, but she's still not very happy with us.
This past summer, the city of Hornell had a very similar problem with the fluent from the cheese plant on Arkport, which is about a similar distance as Hewelton is from here. And I believe they were able to solve that with the help of some outside consultant. Might pay us to contact the Hornell wastewater people and find out what they did and whether they actually did get a satisfactory solution. I know from my perusal of the hometown newspapers that people aren't complaining like they were last summer. I'm sure we're not the only people in the world that have problems with sewer systems and this particular type of a
Get
fluid.
it right over in Canton at Partridge Run Golf Course.
Good.
I would be interested in seeing.
We haven't been there.
Well, I've been there as a council. It's quite a pleasure.
I do not want another tour.
I would
That's
love to.
I've gone through a couple times.
I've had multiple tours also before and after the upgrades.
Shane will reach out to you to come up with a date and time.
I do have another. The new zoning code, I've asked a couple times, and there was a version that was written with, the font is in red for changes and things like that. We can get that to council. I know it was ready in 2019. I remember back, Storm and Jen were still on council, and we were looking at a couple minor changes with sign laws and things like that, but I think the sooner we get that in front of us, things like Wendy Hamilton are talking about with some zoning changes and whatnot, probably move to the forefront, so.
So if I can make a comment on that, the document that you referred to is a red line of the zoning code, where I am going to send that to the planning board for a review. It's been several years now, and they're going to look at it over the next couple of months just to make sure that, you know, as the world has evolved post-COVID, that every change that's made makes sense. And if there are more changes that the planning board feels is important, we'll incorporate that. At that point, I think it makes sense to send to council, but I'd like the planning board to review that first.
Okay.
So it's in the works.
Good. I've been waiting a long time. A lot longer than you've been here.
I've only been here 11 months. I can't fix everything.
Long time. But, so that's that one. I think I'm done, other than, can we get the grass cut at time? To save our lawnmowers. And other than that, I'm done.
Any other old business? Brings us new business. Any new businesses here? Items for discussion. Does anyone have any items for discussion?
I have one, Mayor. I'd
Yes.
like to publicly thank Chief Stahl for aiding one of our citizens. I brought his attention to a problem he was having getting into a condemned structure that he was looking to buy, and Chief Stahl tells me he solved the problem. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Storm. Anyone else?
Just more of an observation than anything really. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we haven't had the fairest weather as of late, but I noticed the waterfront heavily used last night. The viewers going down to watch a sunset, which I understand, from what I understand, is the first one seen since November, through a weekend anyway. But more importantly, the high volume of kids down there using the courts and the playground and the arena, and saw some boats coming in, and it was nice to see. It was really good to see a lot of usage down there, and obviously a lot of the hard work that's been put into that to that area has paid off through the Ready Project and whatnot. So just wanted to count.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank the DPW for putting the fencing up, and whoever else had any part in that around the site that we had the fire on Riverside Avenue. The neighbors immediately reached out, and they're very thankful for that. So thank you for following through, and Fonda, thank you for your leadership in that.
All DPW. Happy to take the credit though. Just kidding.
Anything else for discussion? I would just like to publicly state on behalf of council our appreciation to the governor and state of New York for the announcement last week of $4.5 million of Restore grants coming to the city to help two of our developers, Orthodox LLC and Small City Brewing Company. Certainly is welcome news to see New York State, $4.5 million this year. Last year was $5.5 million in grants for the green parking area and New York Swims for pool maintenance and upgrade. And nice to see the state of New York recognizing that Ogdensburg is worthy of such investment in our community, and particularly with the focus again on the two Restore grants in the Marina District. The Marina District was our key focus in our DRI application, and even though we didn't get that award this year, it's certainly welcome to see the state of New York sees value in investing in our River District and Marina District. So again, thank you to Governor Hochul and the state, also to staff involved with the development of the grant with the developers. As I know, former city commander Andrea Smith was a key player in preparing these grant applications.
Mayor, I have one last minute item to add if I could.
Yes.
Thanks to Chief Stahl's leadership, the firefighting union has agreed to help us out with boarding up vacant and derelict properties. So bringing some of that work in-house, it will be helpful. We'll save the taxpayers money, and we appreciate the fact that the union and their membership is willing to do that for us.
Certainly welcome news. Thank you, Chief, and thanks to our firefighters for stepping up and helping us in something that's in desperate need here in the city to get such properties boarded. Thank you. So that brings us to citizen participation. This time, for anyone attending in person would like to address council, please come down to the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
You want to get that list?
I've already sent it on to you. I sent it to Mary Beth. I didn't have your contact info.
Another thing, there's a house down that is not down 500 blocks away. Not 3 out of the ground. That's been there a while. Is that something the city did or a private person did? It's in the 500 block of grants. Big fact.
I'm told that's a private, right here, this is the speaker. I'm told that was a private action by a private individual. They didn't consult me when they made that move, but we will work through it. Yeah, Chief said he'll look into it tomorrow. Okay, excellent.
Now, if anyone attending,
Christiane, I live on Nevin Street over here by Theater. And I came today because of the fire. And I thought maybe we were discussing the vacant properties and code enforcing and how we kind of go about maybe getting places boarded up or people living in neighboring homes. Is that something we want to discuss today or hear from code enforcers or anything, trying to get some information on how to go about maybe not so much reporting, but just kind of getting maybe a hold on any sort of vagrancy that.
We had reported our last meeting on this issue.
Last meeting, that's-
It was the last meeting. Yeah.
She saw the
So there wasn't.
Okay, that's good.
It's not easy.
Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. City clerk will recognize and unmute one person at a time, and you will have 2 minutes.
The first individual is registered as Greg McNamara, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears your line is open, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm calling in to express my displeasure with the gates leading to the Diamond property still being locked. I've had so many people ask me when I'm outside in my yard why those gates are locked. The city manager said it's because of liability issues. That's being alive and living our lives is a liability in itself. That's ridiculous. Those gates should be open to the public. They should be open for people to drive down to the river, fish, bring their dogs, whatever they want to do. You don't want to develop it right now because you don't agree with whatever it is, or Scott Goldie doesn't agree. I would like to ask, what have you ever developed that size, or have you ever worked with a developer who developed something that size in your career or at past employment? Has Mr. Goldie ever been involved in something of that magnitude? Those are really good questions, and I'm glad you guys are reaching out to another attorney about it. However, I appreciate those of you who spoke your opinions on it last meeting. When Ms. Stevenson spoke, she was interrupted by Councilor Powers, and he just said, well, because it's a liability, and he didn't really say much else. Well, Mr. Powers, if you're worried about liability to the city, you wouldn't have gotten Doug Loeffler, Cindy Lang, and Brian Mitchell, a lawyer who you learned or met through docs working in Albany, to sue the city of Ogdensburg. That's a liability, finding citizens' attorneys to sue the city. Not that I didn't agree with it, but it's just a very hypocritical statement to make for people going down to play in an open grass field or fish or whatever they want to do. Another thing that would be a liability, and I hate to do this, but I don't like being pushed around. All the city employees, cops, firemen, DPW, you name it, tie all their boats together, not all of them, but the ones that do, at the sandbar and get hammered drunk all summer long. Then they go to the boat launch and pull their boat out and drive home, or they go to the marina and hop in their vehicle and drive home a lot of the times. That's a liability, but no, we all look the other way about that. Living life is a liability, and I'm just asking you to open the gates. If 4 of you agree with it, then they should just be open. You need to tell the manager, look at your beat, open the gates. Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Wendy Hamilton, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears your line is open.
Thanks. I just want to end on a positive note here. I would like to thank Mayor Tooley for his comments about the home business water sewer issue, and I certainly hope that puts it to bed for a while. I also want to say that I am very appreciative of Fonda's approach to our city issues, and a measured, thoughtful approach is not doing anything. It's taking responsible action in a way that is sustainable for the city. Having a ballpark opinion is not helpful. Your history will show, and the minutes I've read for the last 15 years show, that off the cuff opinions or ideas and no follow through have not worked. So I truly appreciate what Fonda is doing, and I would hope that council supports his diligence in his approach to what we need here in the city. I just if you ask 100 people in this city what to do with that property, you will get 100 different answers. So ensuring we have good infrastructure and taking parallel paths to this economic development is a sure way to have a successful future. So thank you.
Thank you.
I do not see any other hands raised, Mayor.
All right, at this point, we have a resolution to adjourn to executive session that I will introduce. Whereas City Manager Fonda Cronus requests an executive session with members of the Augsburg City Council to discuss matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. And whereas New York State Open Meetings Law permits City Council to adjourn to executive session for such purpose, now therefore be it resolved that City Council adjourn to executive session to discuss matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. And be it further resolved that any action resulting from this executive session shall be taken in open session. I so move.
Second.
Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson?
Yes.
Counselor TiVo?
Yes.
Mayor Tulley?
Yes.
Counselor Selly?
Yes.
Approved.
And we will be inviting.
Nope, nope, not necessary.
Okay. We didn't anticipate any action following executive session, so I'll make a motion to adjourn from executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned following executive session.